Good morning, Max. How are you doing today?
Splendid. How are you, Julien? How's Paris? How's life? How is your life?
You know what? I don't want to talk about today. I want to talk about the future because today, not a good day. But holiday is at the corner. So if you don't mind, I'm going to focus on that.
Okay.
And that's actually on the point because the story I want to tell you today is, I don't know if it's a travel story. Is that a travel story? That's a travel prep story, kind of sort.
That's travel.
Yeah,
Part of travel is preparing for it.
So here is the thing. I'm going on holiday, taking the kid, taking my wife. I'm also taking a bunch of family members with me. It has been ages since we've spent time on holiday together. And I thought, hey, that'd be cool. So we scheduled this. It hopefully will be. We'll see what the next episode's going to be.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
But anyway, we scheduled this like 6 months ago. That was much needed at the time. It's still much needed today. And then we booked train tickets, and that was the end of it. Now,
not another train ticket story.
It could be, but that's not the topic for today. Now the date is approaching, and I'm just figuring out. All right. The thing is, the train station is not near my home. It's in center Paris. I live in the suburbs. How difficult can it be, right? I did not put more research than that into it because that's Paris. Well, starting to look into it, you need 3 different types of transportation: a train, a tram, a metro.
Oh my gosh.
That's going to be with a stroller, with a bunch of luggage. That sounds like too much stress. So I said, forget it. Especially as you just need one of those guys to be on strike, which happens every summer. Let's not do that. So instead, I said, okay, what about a cab? Problem is, we've had discussion in the past. Uber does not really tell you whether they have a baby seat available. And for babies,
right.
You need a baby seat. So Uber is out of the question. So I start checking cabs, like proper traditional cabs company. They finally have an app. It's no longer just phone registration. They have an app, but it's still very traditional, meaning, yes, you can pick that option to have a seat, but it's still a cab. And what I mean by that is they give you an estimate of how much it's going to cost, but they can't guarantee anything. If it takes 3 hours in transportation, you may pay 3 times the original price.
Right.
And I don't like that, probably because I got used to Uber and all the other players on the market. I like to know exactly what I'm going to be paying. So I started to look for alternatives. And then there is this company, which I'm thinking, from marketing-wise, they must be great because you type anything on Google, they are always the first ones to pop up. Never heard of them before, but as soon as you type cab and baby, immediately they're the first one. So from an SEO perspective, they're great. Their website is clear. Their form, straightforward, not fancy, but good enough. I fill the information. You have to ask for a quote. It's not like an app where you book, but it's fine because I'm preparing a few weeks in advance anyway. So what the problem, right? So I fill the form. I get a quotation, which is lower than the estimate of the taxi, which is great because at least it's a fixed price and at least it's on the lower end. So I'm ready to book, but I have 2 questions. One about, did you guys understand how many luggage and the fact that I got a stroller and everything? Just no surprises on that day. It has to be stress-free, no surprises. And second, you asked me when the pickup should be. I'd like to turn things around. Can you tell me when the pickup should be? I'm going to tell you when my train leaves, and you tell me when, right, which makes more sense. I respond to the email, and I receive a no impossible delivery email back. So I check through that. Their email to respond to the quotation is a no reply email. Doesn't seem to be very bright, but hey. So I go through the quotation again, and there is another email they stayed there. So I copy paste, send my email again with my couple of questions. They do receive it because they reply incredibly fast, 2-3 hours at most. And they say, oh, so what could we help you with? I'm like, do you actually read my email? Because I have 2 questions. I hit reply, and then I get this non-delivery again because for some reason, every time they respond to an email, they respond with a no reply.
Oh, no.
I go back, I find the email, put it in the system, respond again. Next day morning, I got a reply. Hey, just click on this link and fill this form. We'll give you a quotation. And I'm like, I have a quotation. Just answer my questions. So at this point, I lost it. I don't want to be rude because they seem to be, cheap and efficient beside the email part of things. So I decided, okay, let's find that phone number. I call a couple of times. First time, no one picks up. Second time, no one picks up. Third time, works like a charm. I actually realized it's a mobile number. So it feels like, it's a very small company. I'm probably talking to the owner directly. And the owner, I explained the situation. He said, oh, all right, I know what happens. Actually, we externalized the treatment of our email. So they may, even if you have the full thread, they may not be able to, link the dots and connect the dots. And therefore, whatever you ask them, they may not know. But let me answer your question. Everything is fine. You should leave at that time. Just respond to the email again and we'll get your booking through and everything's going to be fine. By the way, you need to pay by cash. If you want to pay by credit card, you have to precise this again in the email. I go through that, respond to the email. Again, forgot. No delivery, have to go back and copy paste the thing. In the end, they accepted the booking. I could I could receive the link. I haven't made the online payment quite yet, but it worked out. But I wanted to bring that story because they are competing with Uber. They are competing with Free Now, which is a big competitor in France. They're competing with G7, which is a gigantic traditional cab company. They're competing with all these players. They have a business. They have a niche. They seem to be very good at marketing, at least from an SEO perspective. I'm assuming they have good service because I haven't read any bad reviews online, but how can you be so bad at managing customer expectations? Simple communication seems to be a major gap, which is the heart of your business. So just wanted to share that. And I don't know what to do with that story, but it felt like a good one worth sharing.
Well, it rubs one of my biggest beefs is I just personally think email is the most inexcusable customer service channel. Period. End of discussion. I know you hate to call, but I would argue email is 10 times worse. It sounds like at least these guys were responding to email within a couple of hours. But I mean, it just, what you see so often is 24-hour turnaround for an email. If the response to your email is, I couldn't read it, what's the question? Now you're 2 days to get an answer to two very I just wish email as a support channel would go away forever, never come back.
But if I can jump in here, I would normally agree with that. And if given the choice, I would much rather do WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or whatever else. I do not prefer phone personally, not because of the queue. I hate the queue, but I'm assuming they're going to be picking up pretty quickly. So it's not because of the queue, it's because of you get no proof of anything. And I've had so many times this experience where someone promises something over the phone and you never get it. And what is the proof that this discussion ever happened? And I don't like that. At least in an email, I feel, and it's probably stupid because are you going to court with an email? Maybe, I don't know. But at least I feel, hey, it's written, it's black on white. It's crystal clear. I got the proof you said that. And that you don't have in a phone conversation.
Fair enough. That's but okay. So all that aside, I guess there's two things that are striking me here, and then another point I'll make after. I don't think they're ever going to be a threat to Uber or the big cab companies or whatever. I mean, the only reason you're using these guys is you have a very specific one-off need that you're bothering to set up weeks ahead. What % of your travel is that?
Well, truthfully, I mean, if I were to go to Paris more often with my kids, that's probably a service I would be using often. It's so big because you cannot use Uber with your kid. And I refuse categorically to drive in Paris. because it's just a nightmare.
Yeah,
I've been
fair
I've
enough.
been driving in China. It's kind of the same thing. So no, but I just don't have the need to go to Paris very often, and definitely not with my kid when I go there. But it's a niche, yet yes. But I'm not the only parent living in the suburbs with a
Okay, so
with a kid.
maybe there's a and it sounds like it's a really small company, and certainly they can hold this guy up through that. And I guess that's probably the crux here, is if it's that small of a group and you're probably 80% of your customer base or more is repeat customers who won't have, once you've done this once, you won't have any of these questions anymore. So maybe it's just something where the need for this communication is so rare that they don't have enough time to try it. They haven't figured it out. All that said, epic fail, completely inexcusable. There's no excuse for, especially, I mean, this is the wrong email to return. That's just stupid. That's easy to fix. Hopefully they can do that. But to not even, when you do get an email, you don't even get the full trail of what's going on. I don't understand how they're not killing themselves from ever getting any new business if they don't change how they approach stuff.
And on top of that, you had a point saying their repeat customers probably don't use the same method. I guess they do, because when I was on the phone with the guy, I was like, look, I don't want to respond to another email. I'm fine with the quote. You answered my 2 concerns. I'm good. Can we confirm it now? Oh, I'm going to need you to respond to the email, sir. And I'm just like, so even over the phone, you can't confirm anything. So you have to go through email, and there is no alternative, and your email is just not working right. And well, I guess, when you're a small company, you need to externalize some stuff. Makes sense. It's probably not just cost saving, but it's also resources saving. You don't want to hire a ton more people just to handle email. It makes sense. But you got stuff you got to fix, because that's ultimately, it's not even customer service. It's about getting business at this point, right? They don't.
This is a sale. You're right. This is a sales moment. This is not a service moment. That's a good point.
Exactly. So it's kind of both, but it's very much sales at this point. So it means every time your email fails is potentially a customer you're losing altogether, and you can't. I mean, no business can afford that. So they should fix this, and they should have Plan B when you're on the phone with a customer, especially if they have made a quote. They could find my information. I guess they have a CRM of some sort. That should be easy enough to click a button and say it's confirmed. I'm going to send him whatever he needs.
And if it is indeed as small as you're saying, where you're getting the owner's cell phone, why can't he just call Jim over in the thing and say, hey, we're this one's done. Just go. Yeah. Well, I feel like you needed the couch. This is painful. In a stupid way.
Even though in the end it feels like my story about the filters a few weeks ago, where you basically told me no one on earth except for me is looking for houses the way I do, and you're kind of telling me I'm the only one to book taxis the way I do. So I feel like kind of a specimen again. But look, it's good to be unique, so I'm going to take it as a compliment, and I do feel better about it. So thank you for the therapy session, Max.
You're welcome. I actually want to throw in one last thought, totally unrelated to those guys. It was interesting when you're talking about the cab and how the price, when it's busy, they're going to get stuck in traffic and the price is going to go up. And, I always think about Uber and the surge pricing and how much people just loathe that and hate that. And I realized for longer drives, cabs have surge pricing too, because they're just it's the mechanism behind it is different, but to your point, it's worse because it's variable. At least with Uber surge pricing, you know it up front, and with the cab, you can't even get what it is. Yet another reason why the model of Uber is just so brilliant, the way that it's worked out.
And many years ago when I lived in Hong Kong, there were very few, like literally less than 2% of the whole. There are tons of cabs in Hong Kong. If you've ever been to the city, there are probably more cabs than buses and cars altogether. There are cabs all over, but probably less than 2% of them were equipped with credit card payments or Octopus card payment. Octopus card was like the transportation card you can use in bus, trams, and some taxis. So most of the time, 98% of the time, you had to pay by cash. And my biggest fear was always to look at the meter and think, in 300 meters, I'm running out of cash. I'm going to have to drop, or they will bring me to the police station, and I don't want that.
Yeah, I've had that too.
And that's what I hate about cabs. If you tell me the price up front and I don't have that money, then I'll find option B. But I hate being in a cab thinking, I may not be able to go all the way to the finish line.
Right.
And that's problematic.
Can you let me out here? I'll just walk the last mile.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, and fair thought on this one. I think that's really something worth looking into, changing your business model to see what is the biggest pain point. And to be clear, I don't mind paying a little bit more with Uber if I know exactly how much I'm going to be paying. My concern is not knowing. That's always a problem.
Good enough.
Cool. Next week is your turn.
All right. I'll come up with some pain to share.
Or sure you'll have. Thank you so much, Max. Have a beautiful week, and I talk to you in a week time.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks, Julien. Take care.